Okay, let's get started. So last week when we started the process of thinking about fear to faith, we went down a path that if you think about personalities and if you think about how if fear is the thing that's driving us, are we going to be, and I'll just throw it out there, are we going to be under control or out of control when it comes to how we interact with people, even ourselves, if fear is driving us? Yeah, out of control. These are going to be simple, and I'll make them more difficult as we go on, okay? And then the next one would be if we have faith in something. Remember, fear and faith are both things you don't necessarily can see right away. False evidence appearing real. It's something that maybe isn't even true out there in the moment for fear, and you don't even necessarily get to see it for faith, but you believe it's true to such a degree that it starts to control you, which is a really good thing for faith and a terrible thing for fear, okay? So when we talk about this idea of fear, I want to take you through a process, and we said last week there will be 3 pieces of this journey together, and the first piece is, and we all crossed our hands naturally, you remember? And we said, understanding me. Everybody say, understanding me one more time. So I don't have to force you to do it. I don't have to trick you into doing it. However you cross your hands naturally is just how you feel. That's just me. And so we're going to learn a little bit about ourselves. And as we learn about ourselves, we'll understand where the fear is coming from, where we've created some files that don't make sense. And then from there, once we know ourselves pretty well, everybody switch, go to the other side. Like, man, I don't typically do that. I don't hold my hand that way. I don't cross my hands that way. And that's discovering others. Everybody say discovering others really quick. Discovering others. And that's a little more difficult. It doesn't feel as natural. You can do it. It's not like I can't do that. No, you can do it. It's just you wouldn't choose to do it naturally. Okay. So when you're working with somebody else, it's not that you couldn't adapt. It's not that you couldn't change your behavior. It's that it's not your natural go-to inclination to do that because you have a certain way that you like to live in this world and interact in environments and all that good stuff. So understanding me, discovering others, and the last piece was, what was it? 1, 2, 3. Pretty close. Try again. 1, 2, 3. And that's working together, right? So if we can understand ourselves, if we can discover how other people work, then finally we can work together. All right, so that was what we talked a little bit about when we started the process. And then we learned 4 key words. All right, everybody, the D wants to get the job done. The I's want to have some fun. The S's want you to be not nice, right? Nice. And the C's want you to be precise. One thing I'm going to add, and we talked about it when I left, my wife and I, it was this whole idea that you're not a singular personality. You're not just done. You're not just fun. You're not just nice. You're not just precise. In Marston's words, you're not dominant, influencing, steadiness, or compliance. Those are words that he generated that if you watched and looked around in an environment, you would see somebody, you'd see somebody moving fast towards a what? Task. Another person might be moving fast towards a relationship or a person. Others might slow down towards a task. The others might slow down towards people. Or relationships. So fast towards a task, they want to get the job done. Fast towards people, they want to have some. And really the idea is to inspire, to influence, to induce, to speed up, to create the environment, to make it more favorable. Remember those words we used last time? We said that the D sees the environment as unfavorable because it's not moving fast enough towards a task, a goal, something to get done. And as we try to get something done, we're like, all right, we need to move. Stop. Okay. And then on the other side, we said that the C's might see the environment as unfavorable because it's not moving in the direction towards that task in the right process or procedure. And so they stop everything and go like this. Wait, what's going on? This doesn't seem right. This doesn't seem correct. Has anybody looked at this plan? Has anybody looked at this process? And they want to slow things down in order to get it right. The I's want to speed things up so they can have some fun, energy, excitement, influence, inspire. And the S's want to slow everything down towards people because you don't want to leave anybody out. Want somebody to get hurt. You don't want somebody to not. Is everybody comfortable? I know there's some people that are not here today. We should probably pray for them. Where are they? Okay, so that'd be S, immediate inclination. The D's are like, tough luck. And so they should have been here. It's already 6:37. It's their own fault. Is it the weather? It's probably the weather. That's the S. It's the weather. It's probably the weather. They're probably preparing. There's a big storm coming. Did y'all know that? There's a big storm. Should have been prepared. That's the C. right? Should have been prepared. Do you have a plan for weather, inclement weather? You don't? Okay, that's sad. All right, and so anyway, so as you do this, right, as you start going through this process, your brain will naturally incline itself or have a propensity, a thought process that's like, man, that feels right to me. And for other people, like, doesn't seem right at all. Seems completely different than the way I would do it. That feels right. That doesn't feel right. And now I've got to try to work together with somebody when the two things don't match up. Okay. So we covered that, done, fun, nice, and precise. We covered unfavorable and favorable. Yes? Please.
Where does the procrastinator fit on there?
Well,
I can't get anything done because I don't go anywhere.
So if you think about...
Are they trying to be too precise?
See, that's the tricky part. That's why the tricky part is that this over here would be analysis by paralysis, right? Paralysis by analysis. So if you want things to be hyper correct, then you never feel like it's quite done. So I need to look at it just one more time, or and so you do start it. You might want to find it to its perfection so that you struggle with getting it done. It's not procrastination though, but it's more of that thought process that, man, why is it taking so long? Well, because it's not quite done. It's not quite right. It needs a little more time. And so anytime you're in the business world, if you ever go through a process like that, you'll be sitting in a group and someone's like, well, that's definitely not enough time to get this done. I mean, we don't even have a plan put together yet. Those type of statements that people say are very natural statements that someone's thinking about. Like a D would walk in and go like this, all right, we got a new change for the company. Everyone's like, oh, great. Can't wait. We're already changing something. And then from there, we've got like two right there, two right here. But the natural inclination of a D is if there's something that isn't broken, break it. If there's something that needs to be changed, change it. Why are we worried about this? And I want to use a word that's kind of interesting, but this word is called possibility. There's a possibility that we could get better results over here. Well, do we know what the plan is? No, I don't care what the plan is. There's a possibility that we could get better results. Have you thought it all the way through? No, I haven't thought all the variables or anything else. I just think from my experience that if we do this and this, then this will happen. And everybody will go, well, you're in charge. I mean, you get to make the decisions, so I guess we'll all just follow it. And then that's as far as they've thought it through. The rest of the group has to then think through all of the processes and procedures, the plan, and everything. And so that's why you'll see this conflict, consternation, confusion in a group, or sometimes why you struggle working for certain people or leaders. They're so opposite. Their pace is so fast towards that task. And your pace is, well, if we're going to do a task, we should do it what? Right. We should do it right. And you're thinking, did you even think about this before you did it? Yeah, I thought you were going to do it. That's what I thought. I thought out loud, I know my team and they're going to take care of this, and that's what's going to happen. Now, someone on ours that just waits to the very last second. Okay, that's then he gives it to me and says, I need you to review this. Okay, that's a little different. It could be two things. But out of all the personalities, the one that has like they're great starters but not such great finishers is the high I. So, and the procrastination might come into play because there's not a lot of energy in it. Because think about it, it's both sides. So when you hear this word energy, they like to be where energy is, and they like to generate energy. So that's why is anybody in sales at all or understand like kind of the sales process? Or you can think about it this way. So anytime something needs to get sold, there's a moment where you take a lot of no's, okay? No, not no's like K-N-O-W or anything like that. It's like, there's a lot of no's out there. Okay, no. So, and not no's either. So they take a lot of N-O's. So they walk out, and the more no's they take, the more energy they start losing. So then someone will mix it up. Like, well, then why don't we go over here? Oh, that sounds like new energy. Anywhere there's new energy for that personality is way better than the bad energy they just left. If they're not getting recognition, if they're not getting approved, we're going way past what we need to for the eyes. But I'm just giving you an example, okay? But those type of thought, you're dead on. The I is procrastinating because it's not any fun. There's not a lot of energy there. Am I going to get recognition, or am I doing it for somebody else? Whereas somebody that's more supportive, they don't even think that at all. They might think, oh, you've asked me to do that? What an honor. Can't believe I get to do that for you. That's great. Yeah, I'll do it. But think about that. If the D's like, are you asking me to do that, or are you telling me to do it? Because if you're asking me to do it, I'm not doing it. Seems like a waste of time. Now think about the difference in this single environment where someone at a job could basically turn around and say, I'm really busy. Don't give me something. Give them to them. Give it to somebody else that's not busy. And somebody's saying that out loud. And then someone else literally coming over saying, oh, although I'm overwhelmed busy because I'm doing everybody's job, I would love to have another thing on my plate. And they don't say a word. They don't make conflict. They don't say anything out loud. Now, inside, they're like, excuse me. Remember what I said? That's a lot of extra stuff. Why am I doing everybody's job? I should say no, but I'm not going to. That part of their personality, of the S personality, struggles with saying no. Remember what we talked about when it came to the book of John. In the book of John, I want you to hear this. He's never even mentioned his own name. The only time John's name is mentioned, I'm almost positive, is either by Jesus, and he doesn't even call him John. He calls him my what? My beloved, because he's such a high S. That's my opinion. Okay, but the other time is, the first time John's mentioned is John the Baptist. Now, anyone want to take a guess? John the Baptist? What do you think his personality is? Yeah, he's a D. He's screaming out, hey, you should be saved. Come over and get baptized, right? Yeah. And I mean, all the way to the point of being beheaded, okay? Because he was controversial. He didn't mind mixing it up. He didn't mind getting in the middle of things, okay? He's wearing like animal skin. You should not do that. Don't tell me what to do. You should be baptized. Anyway, you just get, all right. So we talked about that last time, unfavorable and favorable. Any other quick questions on that? No? Okay. All right. So we got done, fun, nice, and precise. And what I wanted to say, as I went off on a tangent there for a second, is you can be done and fun. You can be fun and done. You can be fun and nice, nice and fun, nice and precise, precise and nice. You can be any combination of these. So when you take your assessment, you're going to notice you probably have at least two, bless you, have at least two of the styles that maybe be above the midline. You might have three above the midline. And when I mean midline is when you take the assessment, it's going to plot your points, D, I, S, and C, on a graph. And that graph has a midline, and anything above it is a high point, and anything below it is a low point. Not low as in a low point, oh my God, but it's just a lower than the midline, okay? So when you see that, if I say something like this, that is a high I trait or a high D or a high S or a high C trait, that just means that trait is above the what? Midline on a graph. If I say that's like a low D or a low I or a low S or a low C, that means that is below the midline. And if you take the assessment and all your traits are like dead in the middle, like just above it or just below it, that's called a translator, which there's a small percentage of the planet that's that. It's also called a level graph. And if you get that, we talked about this, Paul, right? Was it Paul? We talked about this because he had taken what he said was a pretty long time to take the assessment, thinking through all the different environments. And what I want to suggest to you when you take your assessment is, I don't want you to have like as a mom or at work or at home or any of those things. It's purely what's in this first question, which one's most like me, least like me? Go to the next one. Which one's most like me? Yes, first inclination. Most like me, least like me. Here's the problem though. Most and least is almost easier to find than the most. That's why the least is your natural graph, believe it or not. You can often say what you don't like better than what you do like. Because I like 3 or 4 different types of ice cream. I hate that type of ice cream, right? So you can say these 3 I'm pretty good at, but that one I would never eat. That one that you don't do is the one that ends up being your least graph, also being the one that's like this, your natural style. I don't want to get into it, but trust me on it. That's how it's laid out so that it actually gives you a good result to show what's least like you.
Is that how he predicts it?
What he has done, what Marston did with his model, was what he was looking at is what's called predictable behaviors. Remember what I said last week? By nature, it's the patterns of normal behavior, not the patterns of abnormal. Abnormal you can't predict. So with this, what he's saying is there was some patterns that I kept seeing. Some people were planners. Other people like structure. Other people didn't like structure. Other people tend to disorder. Other people like complete order. Other people like to, for some reason, immediately walk into a room and they were outgoing and they seemed to be able to get along with a lot of people. Other people seemed to be more back and didn't need the center of attention. So he was paying attention to behaviors, and then he started to see those patterns, and then he grouped them into these things. But the easiest way to remember it is anytime you get into an environment, there's one personality, and you can call it any word you want, that word would represent. This environment's not moving what? Fast enough, and it's not getting the job, some task or result. There's another personality that's over there saying, this environment is moving too fast. I want to slow it down, because if we don't slow it down, we're going to make mistakes, and you can't get anything right if you keep making mistakes like that. So a process sounds good. Oh, I like that. Steps. Oh, you have standing operating procedure. Oh, that feels so good. Work instructions. Oh, fantastic. And so I'd like to follow those. Can I have them myself? Can I hold on to them? Can I look at them? Is it on a PDF? I love it. And they just can't wait. So they'll really read through all the. Sorry, what are you laughing? You're staring at me? Don't you? Okay. So anyway, so you've got that. Then you got this other side where the person's like, I cannot believe how good this is, how exciting this environment is. It could be better. And they're always trying to move it up. And then another person's like, ooh, this environment is great, and I just want to support it wherever it is. Or say it a different way, remember, this environment's not so great, and I'm not going to try to change that either. I'm going to support that as well. So if you're happy, remember the example we used last week? If the S found out that you were sad, what would they do? They would comfort you. They would let you talk. They would give you a hug, whatever it might be. If an I found out that you were sad, their whole job is to do what? Add what? Yeah. So they would tell you to cheer up. I got a funny story. You're not sad. Let me tell you a really sad story. And so then the D over here, they would tell you to what? Suck it up. There's no crying in baseball. Rub some dirt in it. Let's move on. And then the C, as I told you, always are asking questions. They would tell you to look it up. Remember? Look it up. Are you sure that's sad or is it depression? Because there's a difference. One's an emotion, one's clinical. You might need a psychiatrist. I'm not sure, and I'm not qualified to answer those kind of questions. I'm just curious, though, which one it is. Okay, good? So, all right, I think we're pretty close to that. We talked a little bit about perception versus perspective. We said that overall perception is that idea that from our perception becomes our reality. And then if we can see it from a different way, there might be multiple perspectives. And in this case, for our understanding of teaching this material, we're going to say there are 4 unique perspectives to see from. Dominant, influencing, steadiness or compliance, or done, fun, nice, and precise, okay? Just for this case. I mean, there's a million perspectives that you can have. Everybody can look at things differently, but because we're talking about the disc information, we're going to say those are the 4 different perspectives that we're going to look at an environment. Okay, good? Remember that? Okay. And then we said, as we looked at that, did you see the old lady or the young lady first? And then we showed it so that, oh, there she is right there. And then there's the older lady right there. All right. Okay. And then I think we got to this term, right? My communication, your interpretation. We got to this? If we haven't got to it, let's talk about it. Okay. All right. So I think we did. Yeah, we did. We got to differences in perception. What did you see first? We did the report card. I don't have it up there, but we did the report card. And the reason we did a report card for Misty and Gracie. Misty? No, what was your first name? Misty? Okay. The reason we did the report card was there was 4 A's and 1 B. And so the whole point of the report card was to get people to realize that when we see something, we might see it as, man, that was fantastic. And someone was like, what's with that B? And other people are like, man, I'm just glad they made letters. I mean, that was really good. Call the news press. They made 5 A's and a B, or 4 A's and a B. And so anyway, we were just kind of discussing this idea of the report card and how people see things, and from their lens, how they start to decide if that's good or not, or whatever it might be. Okay, and then we talked about this idea of my communication, your interpretation. So if I said something really strong, and don't forget, as I do this, I'll play a role sometimes. Sometimes I'll act like a D. And It's not hard because it's my natural style. And so my tone will be very abrupt. My facial expression. What are you doing? Okay. I'm not trying to scare you. just doing it like I'm just showing you. Okay. Whereas an I, it's exciting, right? An S, try to be much more quiet, calm, more reserved, right? C, interesting. Got a couple of questions, okay? And so anytime you're doing, if I typically will play out the personalities as I'm doing them with tone and things like that. So if I do a really hard D personality, whatever, I don't want everybody running out of it. That was not very Jesus-like. He's so mean. Okay, well, toughen up. Okay, so, but the whole point of this, the whole reason I told you that was we have a communication style. We say things that we think come across very normally. Why isn't anybody doing anything? Why am I still watching y'all sit there? Okay, you're like, are you upset? Yeah, I'm upset. Just in general with life. It's not moving fast enough towards a task. Let's go. I always like to use, do you have a place where you go that's a fun place to eat? Like you would take somebody, like if you've never, and it's a place you've been many times. So you know the staff, you know everything. So we go to, do y'all know in Humble, El Ranchero, you know where the Mexican place is? We go there a lot. We've been going there for a long time. So they know it's pretty good. But we're going to imagine for a second. So if I walked in there and I've now invited some guests and we're going to do the D, I, S, and C in that moment. And now the hostess isn't there and it takes forever. Then we go to sit down, no chips, no water, no drinks. Starting to get upset now, right? And it's embarrassing because now I've taken these people here and I was going to do this great thing for them. And now I'm starting to get pretty amped up because I'm a D and I want it to be great for them because it just should be. So let's just take that aside for a second. What might a D do in that situation? Because I promise you've seen it. Let's take it out of the situation that is even your friends. It was just a group that's come in. They've never even been there before and don't realize that it's just a place and they needed to serve them then. So what could a D, what might a D do in that situation? Fast towards a what? Yeah, task. So can we get some help here? Yeah. Right? The second they raise their voice so that more than a human being can hear them, especially their table, every S, right? They're throwing up right then. Like why would you be so harsh? Listen, do you not see they're running around? They're busy. And so the S is automatically trying to do what? Support the environment, support the staff. The D is immediately saying, what are you doing? Y'all the hostess wasn't here. We didn't get any water, no chips. Salsa's a little cold. I like the hot salsa. Salsa? Yeah. Salsa? Sounded weird when I said it. Salsa. That's not salsa. Anyway, and then what would an I do? An I just hops up from the table. Listen, no problem. I'll just get hey, that looks good. That's delicious. What are you eating? Can we have some chips? Just pull some chips over there. It looks like you have extra. S is still, now they're really upset. Freaking this guy's over there screaming at everybody. This person took the other person's food. That poor person's throwing up. Oh my God. And the C's like, it's just poor planning. It's just understaffed. I would never go here again. 2 on Yelp, right, or whatever. We're getting a terrible review. Okay. Well, and they're not kidding. They're going to give them a review. It's usually pretty good. Yeah. I don't know what happened. All right. So every person that communicated according to their style, the other group had an interpretation of it. Why didn't you just speak up? Why are you making such a big deal out of everything? They're going to come when they come. Why can't we just spend some time together and get to know each other a little bit? Didn't we come out to eat, like to be with each other, or are we just eating? I don't appreciate that at all. So your personality is like, I don't really like, I'm just trying to solve the problem. The first problem is, D over here, is they're not giving us the what? The food. So I'm trying to solve that problem first, D. The C is like, I understand that we're also supposed to be here and hang out with each other, but this is bad planning. That's obvious. Hostess, snacks before food. Give us time to order. No, reasonable time. Because heaven forbid they don't give me enough time. That's bad planning too. Okay? No, seriously. Everybody, now are you paying? This is what it means. When you're in an environment, you are looking and everybody has their own perspective of that moment and they're all acting accordingly. And if you think you don't, I can put you in exercises right now that'll have you do exactly those things. And you'll go, wait, I can't believe. No, you'll do them. And we'll do an exercise in just a minute. And I'll show you that you'll just naturally do it. So we have our communication and then someone else's what? Interpretation. Okay. So this is kind of the mainstay quote that I like to use. It encapsulates this entire philosophy that people aren't waking up early in the morning to make your life miserable. Okay. They're not every day, hey, I just want to let you know, you just offend me in general. I'm stressed out to be around you. That's not really what's happening. If you really think about it and you look at this quote, so people aren't doing things against you. And I had to put this because I've done this long enough to have put normally in, because I used to just say people aren't doing things against you. They're doing things for themselves. Then I found some people that are nuts. And I was like, nope, normally. So I'll just stick normally in there. Because seriously, you do this with thousands and thousands of people, and then you'll realize there are people that are just mean. They're just out of control. They're driven so by fear, there is no counterbalance. And they want to fight all the time. They want to be the center of attention all the time. And so anyway, all right. So people who do things against you, they're normally what? Doing things for themselves. And then to meet whose need? Their own need, not mine, not yours, their own need. And then according to their strongest tendency, preference, pattern, or comfort zone, which is, and we're just write down this next to it, D, I, S, or C. You're just going to put that down next to that tendency, preference, pattern, or comfort zone, just D, I, S, or C. In other words, they're going to act a certain way because they know, let's see if this makes sense, right? If I act dominant and driven, then I'm going to get the result that I want. If I say do it now, that means when? Now. And so I'm not trying to communicate that I don't like you. I'm just saying that we have a task at hand, so let's go ahead and get it done as fast as we can. We have a task at hand, so let's have fun while we're doing it. We have a task at hand, so let's be a team. We have a task to get done, so let's do it right. Okay? Wait, how can there be 4 perspectives with just doing a single task? Because there are. And then there's combinations of all that. Some want to have fun at first doing the task, and they're like, wait, I'm a D also, so we've had too much fun. Now we got to move fast and get it done. Some want to have fun and nice, right? So we're having fun while we're doing this. Everybody okay? Is everybody a good time? You having a good time? Just be nice to each other. Collaborate and listen. And then that was ice, baby. And then S over here on the C, right? Be precise. If we're going to do this, we're going to work as a team. Let's do it accurately. Let's create a plan. Follow that plan all the way through. And then the whole time, if you start that for too long, what's the D start thinking? We're not getting anything done. I appreciate that we planned all this out. Why don't you do that over to the side? Because we're not getting anything done. Okay? All right. So people aren't doing things against you. They're normally doing things what? For themselves to meet whose need? Their need according to their strongest tendency, preference, pattern, or comfort zone. Their D, and if you're writing notes, their D, I, S, or C, tendency, preference, pattern, or comfort zone. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of quick ones as a high school teacher. If y'all didn't know this, so I taught at Kingwood High School. When I was teaching there, I taught biology AP. So in my biology class, some hard stuff. That same book that I was teaching out of for 9th graders was the same book I used at the University of Texas when I was a junior and a senior. Exactly the same book. When I opened it and I thought, we're using this? I just learned this 2 years ago in college, and now I'm teaching it to 14-year-olds. I might not be the person who should be teaching this because it's a pretty hard book. And so anyway, so now I'm teaching that class. And by the way, I went to Kingwood High School personally and didn't qualify for the honors program that I'm now teaching. So just if that helps anybody understand how much you can grow from the time you were in ninth grade till the time you graduate college. I'm now teaching a class I honestly did not qualify for at Kingwood High School, that I'm now teaching at Kingwood High School. Okay, so I'm teaching. And as I'm teaching, I'm saying, I'm just going to give you some examples, okay? I'm teaching about this idea of biotic versus abiotic. So anything that's biotic in this world is carbon-based. So carbon, anything that has to do with carbon life forms. Except carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, those are gases, okay? Now, on the other side, abiotic, all things that are non-living. Rocks, minerals, mud, precipitate, rain, snow, ice, things like that, okay? So I'm teaching this lesson. I'm going to different biotic and abiotic. And right in the middle of my abiotic, this unbelievable dissertation on the examples of biotic and abiotic to my 14-year-old students, I said, rocks, minerals, mud, rain, snow, ice, precipitate, and okay. So just real quick, personality-wise, who raises their hand like that? Nope. Nope. It's not precise. Ooh. There you go. I. Okay. So here's the D. Hey, I got a question. All right. And they don't even raise their hands. They just say it. All right. The I's like, oh, because they have to be seen. Right. Hey, everybody, I'm about to talk. You should notice me. The S's. Oh, that's too much. He'll never see it. That's good. Feels right. And the C doesn't go like that. The C's like this. All right, he's probably too stupid to answer this. Whatever. And they'll raise their hand. Okay. Are you sure it's an accredited college? You're a terrible teacher. So anyway, I'm teaching this lesson. This young man in my classroom, and I said, yes. And he goes like this. I wrecked my truck this weekend. Okay, let's not even take into account these 14. Okay, I don't know what that means. I don't know where he's going with it. But I do know right there that he should not have raised his hand to say that. Now, if you're teaching in a classroom, this is why I used to, talk to teachers, is that if a student does that, remember what I said? Understanding who? Understanding me, discovering others so we can. In that moment, when that student does something and your personality is not like mine, and you have no idea how disruptive that can be, your brain will then, as a D, what do you think a D might say to a kid like that? We're not talking about science. We're going to talk about you wrecked your truck. So what do you think a D teacher might say to someone like that in that moment? Yeah. Hey, listen, unless you have something, unless you have something biotic to say, which would be coming from you as a life form, think about what you're going to say before you say it. Okay? And it might not even be that nice. You interrupt the class like that again, there's the door. It can be to that level. Okay? Because think about that. What did that kid just do to my classroom? Yeah, it pulled it off task. And if I don't have enough emotional intelligence or understanding of a student like that, then I'm thinking you're creating a nuisance for me. I'm trying to teach you something. I have to know myself before I ever can discover others so that we can work together. And if I get offended by everything everybody's doing and don't know this, that kid didn't wake up early to make my biology honors class miserable. And he sure didn't raise his hand on purpose to throw off my whole class. There is a reason why that young man shot his hand up with that kind of enthusiasm in the middle of my brilliant idea between biotic and abiotic and said something. But if you don't know that, if you don't understand that, it doesn't matter if it's science, it doesn't matter if it's teaching, it doesn't matter if it's in a relationship, it doesn't matter if it's your children, it doesn't matter if it's at work. If you think people are actually trying to hurt you every time they speak up or ask a question or share or anything else, you're going to have a really hard time with human beings. Okay? Oh, thank you. Okay. And so it's very nice of you. And I appreciate that. So I said, he goes like this, I wrecked my truck this weekend. I said, this sounds like a good story. Let's hear it. Because I know enough about people to know he's probably doing something in his head. He's doing something. I don't know what it is because I wouldn't have said that. That sounds crazy to me. Okay, I said, go ahead. What you got? He goes, okay. So me and my dad, we're out four-wheeling this weekend in my dad's truck, so he wasn't even driving. He just made him, I guess he just became the driver all of a sudden in his story. In his life, he is the driver. And so anyway, we went out, we're out four-wheeling. We got stuck in the mud, spun out, hit a tree, and wrecked. Huh? Pretty good, huh? And I was like, nice, good story. And then, of course, the dude's over there. That's the dumbest story I've ever heard. I was just trying to say that, okay, now let me take a step back, go back for a second. That student in my classroom was going like this. Oh, God, that's really tough. Okay, so biotic, everything that's living is carbon-based. Boring. Except carbon dioxide, so those are gases. Gas, that's funny. I shouldn't say that. I'm fine. All right, and then, okay, let's see if there's anything better. If Mr. Norris has anything better in the next abiotic. Rocks, minerals, mud. Oh, God, I got a really good mud story. I got a fantastic, yeah, mud story. Here we go. But he couldn't get out mud story. What he got out was, I wrecked my truck this weekend. Thanks for asking. Woo. My students, your spouse, your friends, human beings aren't waking up early to make your life miserable, okay? They're not doing it to you on purpose. They're normally doing it for themselves to meet according to their tendency, preference, pattern, or comfort zone. Who in their right mind shares out loud a story like that? Someone looking for a little of attention. Someone looking to add a little bit of energy in an otherwise dull biology honors class. Okay, all right. Hopefully we got that. Now I'm going to teach you all 4 of the personalities in my third period class in biology honors, and I'll do it as quickly as I possibly can. See if you can put this together. So when I went to college, I have a degree in science, but I also have a degree in education. So when you did your degree in education, there was a course that you took that actually taught you all of the different things that you might use in a classroom. So an 8mm film, there was a whole lab. You take it and you put the film, canister up there, wrap it through. We don't even use these anymore, but you wrap it through, right? Put it around, pull the lever, hit play, and show a film. Okay, so you learn that. You literally take a class. The recorder, real tough. Play, pause, stop, record. No, but you had to do it. Like you literally had to go in. There was one whole setup with just cassette recorder. Put the cassette in, close it, hit reset. If you didn't do that, you actually failed that part. You have to set it back to 0, right? Get that to 0. Okay, 2 buttons for record. Woo, oh boy, hey. I gotta use 2 buttons. Oh, okay, and so the overhead, the overhead? The overhead is that machine that you stick a transparency on, and like that, and then it shines up there. Okay, pulling down the screen. We did it all. So there's a whole class. I took a whole class so I could be a professional teacher. All right, so I'm in my third period biology honors class. I go to pull down the screen. As I'm pulling down the screen, I hear this like weird sound because the screen's up in the, it's just like this right here, as a matter of fact. It's like that. So I go to pull it down, and you hear this, and I was like, it's no big deal. So I just pull it all the way down, and it shoots back up in, it's right, and just stuff goes all over the first 2 rows. So, okay. I'm like, woo, I'm a professional. So there's a trick that you use. You pull it down, and you jerk it out so that it'll stick, and then you pull it down and then hold it. Okay, so I'm like, and I hear the sound again. Ooh, okay, I'll just pull it out. Pulled it out, and I thought it stuck, and shot back up. Right? There's only 2, I think, super funny things that kids think of about teachers. One's when you're just an idiot, right? You can't pull down the screen. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. And the second is the screen would have fallen and hit me in the head. That'd have been really good, right? That'd have been about as good as it could have got for the whole day. And then the high I would have made up a whole story about, and so he got hit in the head, and he was laid out, but we're in biology. And so we were just in the nursing section of the course. And so we wrapped his head up really good, and we didn't even say anything because the rest of the class was awesome. He was just laying on the floor. And so anyway, they would just make that up by the end of the day. It'd be great. That's not what happened. What really happened was, that actually, not the wrapping my head, because I didn't get hit. So anyway, I go to pull it down. It goes flying back up. And I mean, I hesitate for maybe 3 seconds, 4 seconds, thinking, I might not be able to use that screen. And as I looked at it just a second too long, by the time I had made a decision to do something different, there's a kid in my class, his name was Ben. Ben sat in the black lab octagon tables in the back away from all the humans because in his mind, well, he actually said one day, I hate people. And so he would just sit in the back. And so he was already to the front of my room and now yanking on the screen. He's just pulling it. No, he's fast. Yeah. He did it within 30 seconds. Okay. And so, because I had 2 goes at it, stared at it, that was too much. Okay. So he's up there, he's pulling on it. Anybody want to take a guess what his personality is? D. He wants to get the job what? You are incompetent. You no longer are in charge. I shall be in charge. Okay, so he just pulled the screen down. So he's over there yanking on the screen. The second he starts yanking on the screen, I want you to imagine that's chaos right there. To any S that's in the room, all predictability has now flown out the window. Routine is gone. Mr. Host is no longer in charge. There is a student ripping on a screen up here. We're not learning anything. Okay, and that S is like this. Excuse me, I have right there. Yes, I need to either go to the nurse or to the bathroom because I'm going to throw up. Right? Okay, just relax. It's going to be fine. So right when she didn't say that. She was sitting there like this in my room. Like upset. The eyes started real low and it kind of built up and it started like this. It was just like in the back, free day, free day, free day, free day, free day. And it got louder and louder. Then now she's throwing up. That's it. So they're screaming free day. This kid's out of control. And then, now they didn't say free day, okay? I'm doing that for effect. What they did was they started, talking amongst themselves, which created more chaos in the room, which made the S's more upset. And then finally, one of my C's in like the 3rd row, he went like this. I was like, yes. He goes, just got a question for you. I was like, yep. He goes, it's 3rd period, right? I was like, yeah, it's 3rd period. He said, did 1st and 2nd period get the notes? I was like, yeah, they got the notes. He goes like this. Yeah, I'm going to need the notes. That's it. That was all. And if you don't think that's funny, you have no sense of humor. Do you want to know why that's funny? Do you understand what's going on in my classroom right this second? You've got a guy yanking on a screen. You got a whole bunch of kids just talking randomly, loud now, because they are not learning any biology honors today. You got a poor girl over here about to throw up. She's like, oh my God, I'm so sick. Can I go to the nurse? And then you've got this person that has now looked at that whole thing and said, all right, if 1st and 2nd period got to, I'm like number 15 right now in the class, and I know number 7 and number 8 are in this same class, in the class in 1st or 2nd period. I can't remember which one it is. And so I've got to beat them, and I can't get behind. Did they get the notes? I'm going to need the notes. That was a real statement. And I was like, I'm kind of with the free day people. I'm like, my whole brain was like, I'm good for the day, quite honestly. Screen doesn't work. Woo! Let's chat among ourselves. And so, anyway, but since I'm a professional, I got my act together. And I turned, and 2 doors down from him was the other student in my classroom and went like this. And I said, yes. And he goes, it's just a suggestion, Mr. Hinojosa, but why don't you just write the notes on the board? And then the D in the classroom was like this. You're dead. And the eyes are like this. Free. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, man, we almost got a free day out of this. Why would you possibly suggest that? And the S was like this. Oh, that is so good. Oh, my gosh. Yes. And then we'll stop this chaos, and I'll get to take the notes, and it'll go back to normal. I appreciate that. So good. That's a great example. Thank you so much. And then true story, turned back to Ben, and I said, Ben, stop it. And he goes like this. Mr. Osa, that screen's broken. I was like, you think so, Spartacus? Just go sit down. Just sit down. And the whole time he's walking back. I could have fixed it. I know I could have fixed it. He just goes back there. So which one of those woke up that day to act like they were? Like just on purpose to make me miserable? Which one? Ben? Not too long ago. So Ben's in his 40s now because I'm like almost 60. And so Ben's in his 40s, 48 or something like that now. And I got a LinkedIn message from him not too long ago. And he said, my company just made us do the DISC stuff again. And I'm telling you, I'm not a D. And I was like, you're still a D. I wrote him back. I was like, no, Ben, you're probably still a D. He goes, nope, I'm not. I'm definitely not a D. I was like, okay, whatever. We can argue about it. But that's all kinds of D right there. Love to debate, my friend. And so anyway, people aren't doing things against you. My students weren't doing things against me. That one young lady that was, how do I know she was an S? Because at the end of the time, when I finally finished, I walked over, I always, have a good day, have a good day, have a good day. I'm walking out. And she went like this. She just said to me, I think you handled that well, God. And she just disappeared, right? I just, thank you so much for putting it on the board again. I think you handled that well. Bye. She's just gone. Now, why say that? Why even try to be, appreciative of that little moment? Because that's part of her personality. She wanted to be supportive. She was trying to be supportive by throwing up, and then she wanted to be supportive by just telling me thank you. But anyway, none of those students woke up early to make my life miserable. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Let's do this exercise together in just a second. If you'll turn your page, there's a circle on the top. We'll do that in just 1 second. Let me give you one last little thing about this idea of needs and values, since we just talked about it. Years ago, do y'all remember this in Kingwood at all? This is years and years, in the 90s. There was a group of young ladies that ended up robbing different stores. Do y'all remember this at all? Okay, it turned into a movie, and it actually turned into a whole nationwide story that these cheerleaders were going around and robbing convenience stores. If you've never heard of it, it's okay. They literally turned into a movie. And so, unbeknownst to me, not the young lady, but her brother was on my tennis team. So I was a coach at Kingwood High School as well. And so I'm standing there doing some extra stuff at the end of the day, and I heard her mom standing over to the side talking to another lady. And they were going back and forth, and she said, "I'm so sorry that it happened to your daughter." And she said, "I don't understand, And they were saying a little bit more, and then she said, "I just don't understand." And then finally she said, "I just don't understand. We always gave her everything she ever wanted." And then what my brain did was, "But I wonder if you ever gave her anything she needed." Do you see the difference? So when we talk about this idea of needs, and I say it's basic to our existence, typically you put them in like physical, survival, food, shelter, things like that, relational, belonging, acceptance. Does that make sense? Love. And then spiritual, meaning, fulfillment, purpose. So when we talk about basic needs that human beings have, you can kind of lump them into these ideas: physical, relational, spiritual. And then if you think about needs-motivated behaviors, it's typically how a person acts to get their need met. We just talked about it a second ago. We're taking it a little bit differently because I'm showing you they might be meeting a need according to their tendency or preference. Okay? There might be something that's driving them so that they feel a part of something, or feel safe, or feel as though I get to make a decision, or the right decision, or create an environment that makes me feel a sense of belonging. Or if we don't do it this way, everybody dies. I think it's too much, but I mean, it could be possible. All right, and then values. I want us to use value, because you can use values in a million different ways, but values typically, when we're going to talk about it in this group, we're going to use this idea that it's a standard that guides us. Is that fair? Is that okay? It's a standard that guides all of us. We kind of know that another way of saying it could be that value that we all have for human life, that value that we have for freedom, whatever it is. There's a value out there that's so strong, and we've coined it as a thing that's either right or wrong. Because there's not multiple options. Like, that's valuable, that's not valuable, those type of things. There's a thing that's valuable, there's a thing that's not, and we kind of put it into these headings. And so values influences the choices we make, how we treat somebody, how we interact with somebody. We might, this is where it gets really good, we might even deny our own belonging, acceptance, you with me? Our own food, because we value life to such a degree, we'd actually give it to somebody else. Does that translate? If you've ever heard this, it's I'm going to meet my needs at the expense of another. You've heard this kind of statement before? Okay, that would be pretty poor leadership. Most people that have any type of value for human beings would say, wait, so you're going to get yours and you're going to make sure nobody else gets anything. Wow, okay. And we can put all kinds of terms on that. I don't want to, but you get the picture, right? Another one could say, I'm going to meet my need, but not at the expense of another. As long as nobody else shows up, I'm going to get my need and I'm good, right? And then another version might be, I'm going to meet my need and I'm going to meet what? Your need. So that's like when we say like a win-win or something like that. And that's a really solid leader. But there's one other level that you can't talk about typically in the secular world, because that one will literally sacrifice themselves for another. And we know that as? Yeah, because the answer is always Okay, good. And if I've never told you that joke, I'll tell you it some other time. No, I'll tell you it now because we might as well get it out of the way. By the way, anytime I ask a question, just say Jesus and you're going to probably be right. So a couple of kids are in the elementary school and they're going through their whole lesson that day. And as they're going through the lesson, the teacher got to the one part of the lesson where she's like, okay, it's furry. It's got a bushy tail. It's got really sharp teeth, likes to climb trees, eats nuts. Okay. Wait, hold on. And all the kids look at her. Okay, maybe I didn't do a good job. It's furry, likes to climb trees, eats nuts, sharp little teeth, bushy tail. And finally, one of the kids goes like this. I know the answer is Jesus, but that sounds a lot like a squirrel. Okay? All right, so the answer is always Jesus, just in case y'all want to know the answer. Yeah, so when we talk about things like that, when you do something to that level, we would call those heroes. They'd sacrifice something in that moment for the greater good. And I'm going to end with that thought at the end of today's lesson because I've been watching, for whatever reason, World War II again. And there is a moment in the beaches of Normandy called Point du Hoc. If you've never heard that before, it's a really unbelievable story of the Rangers, how they climb these sheer cliffs. And I'm going to tell you that, I'll say that last statement, but I'm going to just set it up here. So that on the beaches of Normandy, when all of the troops were coming in, there were set up these guns that were set up that would hit the beaches, and they were sitting in a very strategic spot. So the Rangers were called in early from the back and from the front, but the front side had to go up onto the beach while they're being shot down on, make it to the cliff, climb the cliff. There's like 224 of them total. Climb the cliff. If you can imagine climbing a cliff and a guy standing like this and shooting you as you're climbing, 100-foot cliff. We're not talking about these unbelievably great ladders. We're talking about a rope ladder that gets flung from a boat with a hook that lands and hooks into a ground and then pulls over, and they have to climb it as they're being shot. And grenades are dropping on them. And these men did it. Okay? I'm going to end with that as the last thought today, because our whole point today is to think about this idea. Your traits are not your what? I don't want you to ever get this mixed up. That no matter how much we talk about the personality information, done, fun, nice and precise, all of those things, get it done, have some fun, all that. Any personality trait that I talk about is superseded by your what? And your characteristics. I like to be a planner. I like to get things done. I like to have, interact with people. I like to be the center of attention. I like to be outgoing. I like to be reserved. Okay? I like to be organized. You should be organized. Why didn't you plan that out? All of those are characteristics. They're just traits. But they're not your values. You remember what I said? The whole point of this series is to get you to realize somewhere in there, all these traits, we can be led by all these traits. But the second we see the value in another human being, those traits completely change and alter so that we can work with human beings completely different. My wife and I are almost exact opposite. I would say we are pretty opposite in almost everything we do. We have an I in common, but it never shows up because we're in conflict the rest of the time. I, meaning the I personality trait, is in common. If we can get to it. Because I'm a D, she's an S. I'm an I, she's a C, right? But she has an I above the midline. So if I can get past the DS and the IC of her side, or the SC of her side, oh man, we're going to have some good times. Right after we've tried to kill each other in between, right? The whole statement is opposites attract and then opposites attack. Because those oppositions, those things that aren't the same, are complementary, not like, hey, that's great. Complement, like MENT, not compliment, hey, IMENT, right? They're complementary. They have two sides that come together that help one another. But man, they're so different when you try to do something that everything comes out completely on the other side. Okay. So your traits are not your values. So if my wife or if my children or if another human being says something in contrary, hey, I wrecked my truck this weekend, I don't make that young man feel like an imbecile. I don't try to hurt him. I don't try to kick him out of my class. I don't do any of those things. I try to see in that moment what it would be like to be excited as a 14-year-old long enough to even have the courage to go like this. Because the second someone asks a question, there's a good chance you've got 3 other perspectives thinking whatever they just asked or said was stupid. And I've got to set up an environment in my classroom that keeps those kids motivated. And if I don't take care of them, it's at my expense, right? I'm going to take care of mine, and you kids, y'all fend for yourself out there. I'm teaching, whether anybody shows up or not. You'd figure out that leader pretty quick. You'd figure out that teacher pretty fast. But if I'm willing to take some heat for that young man in that moment, and then set him up not just as someone that's excited, but then encourage it. Did you see how he used a metaphor? The metaphor was he wrecked his truck and he got stuck in the mud, and mud is not biotic, it's what? Abiotic. Congratulations. Thank you for sharing today. You taught everybody a way to remember it. But do you see the difference? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'd like for you to have no dignity every single day you walk into my classroom. And P.S., if you've been in the corporate world for even a second, at the highest level of leadership, you've worked for human beings that will make you feel as though you have no sense whatsoever. They're the only one that can say anything or do anything. And you walk in just thinking to yourself, I learned the personality stuff, but they're just mean. Seriously, that's what you were talking about. I learned all this stuff. And I'm not even sure why we learned it as a corporation, because nobody's using it. That's what I don't want to happen. I want you to understand that human beings have a certain tendency, preference, pattern, or comfort zone. They're doing it because it comes natural to them. And if we can understand it and then in that moment at least see from another side, see from that other perspective, just for a second, then what would happen? We might be able to work together. Okay? Oh, we're already out of time. All right, so we'll pick up there next time. Let me say this last part about Point du Hoc and what we were saying. So out of the 224 Rangers that climbed those cliffs, first off, the fact that any of them got up there was absolutely amazing. And they did. They made it. If you ever go watch some of the footage and you get to hear these men, I knew, listen to these words, I knew that that was my friend, and I knew that we'd trained all this time together, and I knew that he'd already been killed. But my job in that moment was to keep climbing. We got a little concerned after we climbed that for the next 2 days we had to fight off one wave after the other of Germans that were, coming back, and we didn't have any food. That's what one of them said. We got a little concerned. After 2 days, not just not eating, fighting for their lives. There was only, out of 224, they lost 80% of the group that made it the next 2 days. But do you know what they said at the very end of it? They said, the reason why we had to do it in that moment is because if we didn't do our job, then there was other people that would get hurt. We did it, ready? This was the statement, so that others could live. That's not a D, that's not an I, that's not an S, that's not a C. That is somebody that values a human being's life to such a degree that they would sacrifice their own in a moment so that others could what? Could live. All right, so that's today. We're done. We'll pick up there next time, and we'll keep going, okay? All right, thank y'all.